Sakura Haruka is a high school student who lives life the way he wants to, but is shunned by his peers in school as a result. Early one morning, a woman is being hassled by a group of guys who have already peaked in life. She's got a carton full of eggs, so she's obviously got places to be, but these guys don't care and keep asking her to come have some fun with them. She refuses and tells the leader that she would smash her eggs into his face if it wouldn't be incredibly wasteful, but she has no time to waste on lowlives like him and his friends, so she will be leaving now. The leader doesn't know how to take no for an answer, so he forcefully grabs her hand, hurting her in the process, which is when Sakura intervenes. At first, he tries to be civil and handle the situation like a reasonable person, so he tells the leader of the boys to pack it up because it's too early in the morning to be doing dumb stuff like this. Unfortunately, logical reasoning doesn't work when your brain is the size of a walnut, so the leader tries to swing on Sakura, only to get his punch cleanly dodged. He then proceeds to get beaten up so bad that the cameraman had to cut away, but once he is back in frame, Sakura is standing over him, calling him and his friends weak. He's not scared of a fight, so if anyone has a problem with him, it should remember that his name is Sakura Haruka from Furin High. Afterwards, he simply begins walking away without saying a word to complete his badass moment, but the girl who had been watching everything happen the whole time finally snaps out of her daze and chases after him. She grabs a hold of his arm and thanks him for saving her, but Sakura is confused because no one has ever thanked him for anything before. His brain short-circuits, so he instantly goes into tsundere mode as he tells her that he didn't do it for her sake or anything. He just got pissed off by the way the guy was acting. The girl ignores his outburst and asks if he is hungry by any chance, which Sakura initially denies, but no one can turn down a good omelette, so he ends up at the girl's restaurant. While making small talk, she realizes that Sakura isn't originally from this town, which explains why she hasn't seen him around before. Recently, there have been a lot of gangs fighting in the area, so normal people tend to steer clear of the area. She introduces herself as Tachibana, but Sakura is still trying to figure out why this girl is being so friendly to him. Most people would be afraid of someone who they saw take on 5 guys easily, but she doesn't seem to care at all. She asks if he's not going to eat the food she made for him since he hasn't taken a bite yet, so Sakura immediately starts eating and he loves it. As he eats, Tachibana comments on how unique he looks since half his face is colored different, but she can tell that it's just the way he looks naturally. Her face gets a little too close, so Sakura freaks out and jumps back. After calming down a bit, Sakura says he's surprised that she doesn't find him weird since most people would call him gross for the way he looked. Tachibana doesn't find his appearance all that strange since she is used to seeing people with much worse fashion choices, but that aside, she asks if his appearance has anything to do with the reason he came here in the first place. Sakura tells her she's right since he came here because the way he looks doesn't matter when it comes to a fight. Furin is notorious for having the most brain-dead students but also the best fighters, so brawls take place every day to decide who's on top. Sakura isn't excluded from the Walnut Brain Society, so a school like this is the only place that he's got a shot at making a name for himself. Tachibana now understands Sakura's motivations, but that doesn't stop her from making fun of him for being so excited for school that he wore his uniform today when Furin doesn't open until tomorrow. Sakura denies it, but his embarrassment only tells Tachibana that she's right about him. While they were bickering, an old man named Yama had just finished his meal and is heading out. But just before he leaves, Sakura notices that he left his bag behind, so he gets his attention and hands it back to him. A little while later, Tachibana comes over and says Yama was thankful for Sakura's help, so he wanted her to give him some candy as a sign of gratitude. Sakura still isn't used to being thanked for anything, so he asks why the people here are being so nice to him. Normally, people would take one look at him and think he is a delinquent, so they'd be on guard. One time, he tried to return someone's wallet, but he got the cops called on him because the person accused him of stealing it. Tachibana tells Sakura that he made the right choice coming to Fujin, but as he is now, there is no way he's beating anyone, let alone becoming the top dog, and that all because of one thing. He may be strong, but he is alone, so he's gonna get his ass jumped. Hearing her say he's alone strikes a nerve with Sakura, so he angrily states that he is not weak, so there's no reason for him to rely on other people just to win a fight. She admits that Sakura may have the strength to back up his claim, but it would be best if he goes to meet some other kids from Furin, then he will understand what she means. While walking home, Sakura finds himself confronted by the gang leader from earlier, and this time he has brought the entire squad for the sole purpose of jumping Sakura. He isn't really in the mood to deal with this right now, so he just tries to ignore them and walk away, but the leader stops him just to start making fun of the way he looks. Honestly, this is what Sakura was waiting for, since this jerk is the kind of person he has been dealing with his entire life. They always look at him with disgust, so he has given up on trying to fit in. People just make assumptions based on what he looks like, so if the world wants him to be a delinquent, he's going to do just that. He punches the leader straight in the face once more and proceeds to take on the entire gang all at once, and he's actually winning. They keep coming after him, but even though some of them are armed with bats, he continues to avoid their attacks and single-handedly drop the average IQ score among the gang members with the brain damage he's inflicting. While all this is going on, Tachibana was inside her store cleaning up the dishes, and while I've got nothing against her, this dumbass decided it was a good idea to go outside and check what's going on. Well, she gets grabbed and held at knife point so they can use her as a hostage to get Sakura to let his guard down. However, as soon as Sakura sees Tachibana in danger, he pulls off some cool acrobatics and drops the guy before he ever had the chance to use his knife. One guy tries to sneak up behind Sakura, but he's not going to call for something as cheap as that and roundhouse kicks the guy's face into a wall. He continues beating them down, but having to protect Tachibana is really limiting the amount of damage he can do, and if this keeps up, he's going to get overrun. He doesn't even know why he bothered helping her in the first place, since he barely knows her. As he continues fighting, one of the guys he had knocked out before regains consciousness and grabs the knife that had been thrown to the floor, slashes Sakura's ankle. He then almost gets his head smashed in by a guy with a bat, but he manages to stay back at the last moment, although with his injured ankle, his mobility is going to be limited. He has no chance of evading the next attack, so he just braces himself for the inevitable beating he's going to get. However, before the bat can make him even dumber than he was before, he gets saved by a guy who was also wearing the same Furin uniform as him. The guy thanks Sakura for protecting Tachibana, and she looks happy to see him. He asked her not to tell their boss that she was in danger so he doesn't flip out, but now that he is here, he'll make sure the situation gets handled. He grabs the bat from the gang member and elbows High-Face so hard that he gets put down for a compulsory nap, after which he then turns to the rest of the people there as his friends arrive. These punks have made a mess of the town with their antics, so they are going to have to pay for it. The gang is understandably scared since they were already barely winning against one guy, but now they got to deal with 4 more. There's no backing out at this point, so they all attack at once even though they know they got no chance at winning. All the Furin guys are just as tough as Sakura, so this fight is a one-sided beating. One guy tries to go after Sakura, and since his ankle is injured, he's not able to get out of the way in time. Luckily, Hiraji steps in and kicks the guy into a wall. He tells Sakura to stand back if he is hurt, since they won't be able to protect him if he gets himself caught in the middle, and Sakura just remains dumbfounded as people begin to cheer for the Furin guys to beat up the gang so they can get on with their days. This is nothing like what Sakura was expecting when he came here, and he never would have thought that the people here would be so supportive of Furin. Tachibana then explains to him that when she said gang make this place unsafe, that it only applies up until about 2 years ago. This was because of the students at Furin High who took the town's security upon themselves and put up a notice board at the entrance. Anyone dumb enough to cause trouble in their town will leave the town with more brain damage than they started with, because they are the town's shield, otherwise known as Windbreaker. That's why the townspeople love them so much now. It's true that they were a bunch of lowlives 2 years ago, but that was 2 years ago, and now they are loved by everyone here. Sakura can't help but feel jealous that despite fighting like that, these guys are still accepted by everyone here as though they are heroes when all he ever got was scorn. He is still in shock when the townspeople turn their attention to him and start thanking him for holding off the gang until everyone else arrived. Since his ankle is hurt, an old lady offers to give him some first aid, but all this kindness is too much for him to process, so he has another outburst. Tachibana understands why he is acting this way, so she takes over the first aid for him and says that she can tell that he is alone, but he didn't choose to be alone. Whatever circumstances may have caused it, he doesn't need to give up on the people here because they need him. He was still kind enough to return Yema's bag, and he even put himself at risk to save her. So if he is willing to look towards them, then they won't turn their backs on him. Sakura doesn't know how to respond, so instead he takes off running towards the crowd and proceeds to jump 10 feet into the air. He transitions into a drop kick aimed at the gang leader who is trying to sneak up on Hiraji, and while he's not sure how he feels about this whole playing hero thing, but if people will accept him the way he is, then he will fight to defend the town. The next day, Sakura arrives at the diner, but he's got a foul look on his face because he was coaxed into giving a piggyback ride to a granny. Since they've arrived, Sakura tells the granny to get off his back already, because he's not above slugging a grandma in the face, so Granny Sayo jumps off his back and Sakura realizes she tricked him more than he thought. She had told him her hips hurt so bad that she could barely walk at all. But all of a sudden, she's able to move perfectly fine and doesn't even acknowledge it when Sakura tries to call her out on it, making him even more angry. However, despite the granny's jokes, she's still grateful to Sakura for helping her get to the diner this morning, so she thanks him. Sakura still isn't used to being thanked for things, so he starts blushing once again and wants to leave to save himself some embarrassment, but before he can go, Tachibana calls him back because she's got something special just for him. She offers him a full breakfast, free of charge, since his entrance ceremony to Furin is going to happen today, but now that she thinks about it, the ceremony doesn't start until 12, but Sakura is already dressed for it, and it's only 10 o'clock. This gives her perfect ammunition to start teasing Sakura some more for being excited about attending Furin, but he denies it and says he was just out for a walk today. Tachibana doesn't blame him for being excited, though, since she knows there are a lot of interesting people there for Sakura to meet, but moments later the front door swings wide open and Naraya walks in, or rather face plants into the room. After picking himself off the floor, he shows everyone his brand new Furin uniform, but Sakura points out that he forgot to take the tags off clothes. Naraya then proceeds to roll around on the ground in an attempt to get the tags off his back, and Sakura can't believe a guy as clumsy as him is going to be attending Furin as well. But Naraya takes offense to this and says he's never seen Sakura around, so he must be from out of town. Which is true, but it's not like it matters where he came from. Another thing Naraya scrutinizes is the way Sakura's hair and eyes look, but while Sakura was expecting him to call him disgusting or something, he actually just thinks his hair is turning white because of stress. Tachibana finds the whole thing funny, so she acts as the mediator and introduces both of them. She explains that Sakura just moved into town yesterday, but Mirai still has no idea who Sakura is supposed to be, so he takes a look in his top-secret book of names, and according to it, Sakura is a complete nobody. Sakura was about ready to throw hands at this point, but Tachibana tells him that Mirai doesn't mean any harm, he just acts like that sometimes. Mirai goes on to warn Sakura that Furin is an ordinary school to be taken lightly. The students here stood up for the locals and drive away wicked troublemakers, so all the new students to the people look up to them. With that being said, it makes no sense to him why Sakura, who has no ties to this town whatsoever, would want to come to school here. Sakura answers that he's here to take the top spot at Furin Academy. He thinks it's cool that they are protecting the town, and he knows there are a bunch of strong guys there as well, so he would be satisfied if he knew he was the strongest among them. Mirai thinks he shouldn't set goals for himself that he won't be able to achieve, because if he does, then the stress will make him go bald. Sakura has had enough of Mirai's antics, so he tells him to get ready because they're about to throw hands. Naraya doesn't like the sound of that, so he makes an excuse about it being late, so he has to leave now. Later, as Sakura leaves, he is pondering what Tachibana had told him when his path gets blocked by a surprise tray of baked goods. The baker offers them to him for free, but Sakura is confused as to why he is getting such an offer for no reason. They say it's their way of giving back to the Furin kids since they are always so helpful, and they want Sakura to have the bread because he was single-handedly holding off the troublemakers the day before, so it's the least they could do. Sakura once again can't handle being thanked for anything, so he tries to decline by saying he's not hungry, but the bakers are insistent and give him the bread anyway so he can eat it for lunch today. And they weren't the only ones to offer Sakura free stuff. After all the thanks the townspeople gave him, it looks like Sakura just did a week worth of shopping. It still isn't clicking in Sakura's brain that some people are just nice when you help them out, so he thinks this town must really be messed up. But then again, maybe he was just assuming that they would never treat him like a member of the community. He thinks about it for a moment, but then he gets startled by a girl calling out to him from behind because she needs his help. In a dark alleyway, we see Naraya getting the shit kicked out of him by a group of hoodlums, and they say it's because Naraya interrupted them while they were trying to raise up that girl that we saw ask Sakura for help. The situation is pretty similar to what happened with Sakura the day before, but the only difference is that Naraya interfered knowing damn well that he can't handle a one-on-one, let alone a 1-5 fight. The leader of the guys calls Naraya pathetic for losing a fight so easily, but he's going to leave now since there's nothing more for him to gain by being here. But Naraya won't let him go for some reason and grabs into his shirt. The guy thinks this is just sad now since Naraya has no shot at taking him down. But if he keeps being annoying like this, he's going to have to take this fight seriously and beat Naraya to a pulp. Naraya refuses to give up and begins reciting the Furin school motto to purge all evil as if he thinks it will give him a power-up. But we all know power-ups only come from flashbacks if the bully is about to knock him out so he can't pester them anymore. However, before the hammer fist comes down on Naraya's head, he is saved by Sakura, who comes flying in with a kick to the face. Narei doesn't understand why Sakura would come here to save him despite them barely knowing each other. But Sakura isn't here because he wants to save him, he just really hates people who enjoy picking on the weak in large groups, so he's going to take care of them. Narei tries to warn him not to get involved since he can't possibly take on 5 guys at once, but moments later the 5 guys are all laid out on the ground and Sakura is still standing. Narei is amazed by the strength Sakura possesses and thanks him for saving him just now, but he apologizes because Sakura must be disappointed in him. Sakura has no real feelings on the matter, but he tells Narei to know what he is capable of handling before he gets himself into fights out of nowhere. Narei gives his backstory of how he used to get bullied a lot in middle school, but then one day he was saved by someone from Furin. Normally, he would only ever be afraid of someone like that, but in that moment, he thought the guy looked really cool. He wanted to be just like that guy, which is why he came to Furin, but he is still such a loser. Sakura thinks about it for a moment and realizes that he may have judged Narei a little too harshly at first. He may not be much of a fighter, but he still had the guts to help someone in trouble and not back away from a fight. At least in Sakura's books, that makes him a decent guy. The girl from earlier comes running over to see if Narei is alright, and since he doesn't want to be seen crying, he says he is alright. The girl is thankful to him for stepping in to save her when those guys started hassling her, and Sakura as well for helping save Narei when she asked. Once more, Sakura is embarrassed by being thanked, so he tries to leave, but Narei calls out to him and pulls out his top-secret book so he can start recording everything there is to know about Sakura. From his height to the type of girl he likes. Sakura doesn't appreciate getting his info documented like this, so he smacks Narei on the head, but Narei says he was just doing it because he enjoys gathering the data of people he looks up to. And that gets Sakura to let him hang around since he's not that bad. Narei may not be of much use in a fight, but he is sure he can help show Sakura around town since he is new here. But for now, they have to head to school since the entrance ceremony will be starting soon. After that, he and Narei finally arrive at the school, and Narei is pumped to check out the class rosters to see which class he'll be in. Luckily, he and Sakura are in the same class, as well as a bunch of other people he looks up to, but has never actually spoken to. Sakura tells him to stop geeking out over who's going to be in the same class as him because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But after Narei takes another look at the class rosters, he sees something that wipes the color off his face. As they walk up the stairs to class, Narei pleads with Sakura to try to be friendly with the people in class so he doesn't cause any problems, but there's no way he's going to pander to anyone for no reason. Narei just wants him to show everyone that he means no harm since he comes from out of town and may not be accepted right away. But Sakura is already warming up for a fight, exactly what Narei does not want him to do. One wrong move and the whole class may see him as an enemy of Furin, at which point the entire school will turn against him. But Sakura doesn't see a problem with that since he came here to get to the top of the school, so it wouldn't matter to him if everyone came at him at once. Upon entering the class, there's a whole spectrum of students, including the one in the back who's just doing pull-ups. Everyone starts staring daggers at Sakura, and he's liking the way things are going since the class looks like they mean actual business. He gets approached by one eye patch-wearing dude, and he seems to be pretty nice. This is Shuo, and he's inside Narei's top-secret book, so you know he's got to be cool. However, the eye patch is just for show though. But that's enough discussion about himself, so if he wants to hear about Sakura. Sakura was ready to start fighting immediately, but he is surprised when Sue just patting him on the back and telling him he did a good job defending the town yesterday. Seeing Sue being friendly with Sakura, all the others in class become interested in him and ask what he did. Sue explains that he was the one who single-handedly held off that gang that attacked the town, so they all have a good amount of respect for him immediately. And Narei is glad because this means Sakura won't have a target on his back. However, when he's asked why he came here, Sakura answers honestly and says he came to get the top spot at the school, and after saying that, he now has the attention of all the heavy hitters in class. Most notably, Sugita, who chucks a desk out of nowhere and threatens to crush Sakura, but Sakura was already looking for a fight, so this works out well for him. This was the end of episode 2. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to not miss the next part.